So welcome to the USSS Sustainability Group. Just a quick updates of it is that earlier today we had the TC54 monthly call, and I provided the updates for all of the different working groups and kind of where we're at. There was some interest in the sustainability work that we're doing during the call. I'm hoping we can gather some interest in the respective organizations. I did share the Google Doc on the call and provided the link to everybody on the call as well. And we talked about sustainability for a good, I don't know, 5-10 minutes or so. Lots of great questions. That video, as soon as I get it, will be published up on YouTube, so folks can share it. But just wanted to kind of let you know.
Awesome. I'll check it out when it's out. Thank you. Should I share a screen with you, or do you want me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Would you like? Let's see if I can find a way to do it without making my computer explode. Let's see.
I'm going to turn off my video because I would like to finish eating lunch, but
all right. All right. Can you see the document?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. So last time we talked about topics relating mental health. I think it was a really useful addition here.
Yeah, that was a great conversation.
Things. Yeah. And we only have a few more steps left. So what I would like to propose is that we try to go through them as quickly as we can, so we can go back to our main list of items, which is the use cases and requirements, and give them a once over to see if we still have a good enough mental model of what needs to be communicated here. And I'm thinking this topic here, what I'm worried on the use cases, in the use cases bit so we can think about it for the next 2, 3, or 4 weeks, is more around the demarcation between what we try to do here with sustainability for open source projects and what the common life cycle enumeration project is doing, which is kind of has some, that we're touching each other's fields in a sense. They talk about what is offered and how to communicate what can happen of different events during the life cycle of a project. But here we're also talking about how to communicate certain type of life cycle events, like that, for example, a project is done, it's finished, or a developer or maintainer decides to abandon the project, or communicate this, or from an outsider's perspective or an ecosystem perspective, someone else infers that a project has been abandoned because it's basically has been no activity, say for example for 2 years or a certain amount of time. I'm thinking finding a way to have some clear demarcation lines between the CLE project and ours, I think is something we would do well to explore a little bit, just to create some clarity here. Not entirely sure how that should be done, but I'm challenging you and anybody who sees this on YouTube to give it a think and maybe reach out when we come to that point in the discussion. Does that make sense? All right, cool. So I have noted here we haven't discussed user interface, user experience, and accessibility. Web, mobile design, user experience, email newsletter design, accessibility audit. I don't know if there are any more points to add in under this heading. We're at number 19 at the moment. I've tried to reach out to some friends, and they say they that are into user experience, but they didn't offer any good suggestions. So I would like to, unless you have something to add, that we just leave it as it is.
Yes, I will reach out to we have within CycloneDX, we actually do have a UX researcher that volunteers her time for CycloneDX. She's the one that did a lot of the work on the new website, for example, and a bunch of other stuff. I will ping her and see if there's any other things that we might want to list. But I can't think anything off the top of my head.
Yeah. Maybe one could argue, I think that SEO and discoverability and keyword analysis and such could like reach into this topic, but I would say no. So but this is, I had one class at the university around user experience, and that one was rather more towards websites and based on some Danish user experience guru. I think he ran a company called the Nielsen Norman Group or something. But he wrote a lot of really good stuff on that. But this is a long time ago. I don't know if this is valid anymore. So if you could reach out to your colleague in CycloneDX, was it OWASP?
No, it is within CycloneDX, but yes.
Okay. Yeah. Please do so. So we can leave this as a question mark until then. Let's see. And so we can have a little bit of a discussion there later. Next point, we kind of barely touched on troubleshooting and support. User support and answering questions. We didn't have time to properly go into that last meeting because we had just a few minutes left at the end. But you mentioned, if I remember correctly, that you had some thoughts on this matter. Maybe should we merge this into something else?
Well,
the scenario, yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to I can't remember what my exact comments were, but I think I remember. I think it depends upon who the user is, right? Is this like an application that you deploy, something like dependency track, and the users are going to be very, very different than, say, well, this is like a development platform or a library, and the end users are going to be other developers. So user support and answering questions, I think, is going to vary. And in some cases, like for that end user type of thing, like, like a dependency tracker or something like that, the end user, you might actually have somebody answering questions for like the actual like operators of the software. And you might have other folks answering questions, trying to get developers up to speed, contributing, that sort of thing.
Yeah, to me, this seems very much a type of activity you can find in any project, but it will of course have to be tailored to the user base. That expected users of that particular project. So I'm thinking whether it is an end user that is non-technical or a specific targeted user group, type of user or persona, or if they're an outright developer, it really doesn't matter. I'm thinking more the question at hand here is whether or not somebody is willing to commit to do the work. Say, for example, being available in the evenings after work for an hour or something, answering questions in a forum, for example, or bothering to be present in a Q&A channel of some sort where people might show up and ask questions. I all this off.
Sorry. So this could go obviously into, you know, it could go into GitHub issues, you know, GitHub discussions, Discord, Slack, mailing lists.
Exactly. It's but the amount of attention is still needed.
Yeah. It's almost like a, I don't want to say it's a moderator role, but it kind of is, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like if you take it to compare it with Stack Overflow, it would be somebody who is a frequent answerer there, or whatever it's called. There's somebody
right.
who gets points for being good at answering questions, but they don't have a role. They just pick up the gauntlet and say challenge accepted, and they proceed from that for whatever reason.
Right.
Might be some gamification going on there, or you get points and bragging rights. But what I'm thinking here is raising your hand and say, hey, is somebody here who would love to help a little bit? Is that enough, or are there any similar activities that we should add to this headline? Maybe it's enough as it is. If I look at some of the other topics here, like mentorship kind of is a high level of dedication version of that. Community building and management might be related. Like you find a community useful because you get the help you need there.
Well, here we've got forum management, moderation, and support.
Yes.
Maybe that falls in there, actually.
Yeah, should we just merge in the topic here? Troubleshooting and support.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Or should we take out in the forum management bit here from community building and management? So which means we leave more community building and management to the high-level organizational things,
right,
but not the direct interaction with end users.
Right.
Maybe I think I'd like to lean more towards moving forum management, moderation, and support to the point 19 below.
I think you're right, because everything else doesn't really involve directly end users.
All right, let's do that. That means we get to add a point here, which makes this a little bit less flimsy. For management moderation. and technical support.
Yeah.
All right. I think I'm happy with that one now.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, let's if you're happy, I'm gonna add now checkbox. Let's see if I can find it. No, what was it's
It was like the non-English thing, wasn't it? It was something else.
I found it. Yeah, this I'm using Norwegian here.
Yeah.
All right. Some say, which means we can change this one also, user interface. I think we, oh no, oops. That one, the user interface.
Yeah, you can put my name on there to follow up with Kayla.
Yeah, give me a moment. I have to redo some of the things here. So it seems, yeah. We're having showing private email addresses here.
Fantastic.
Oof.
That's all right.
All right. Okay. Commercial services. I added that one recently. We're at 21 now. And my thought is one thing I have learned in my let's call it exploration of the European Union's Cyber Resilience Act and the new open source steward organization there is that a lot of people are thinking that and also the European Commission with the law or the act they are thinking not in a nuanced way when it comes to funding of open source. It's either a hobby project or you are monetizing it somehow, meaning there's some commercial thing going on here. But the real life isn't as nice and tidy as like that. People do get the donations, and the question is whether or not it's a substantial amount. And this is, I think, is very much up to a decision you have to involve your local tax authorities with. But no matter how it goes on that side, there are certain things that is interesting to explore on the path from having a pure hobby project to something that you can make a living out of. And I would love to see open source projects have a meaningful path to explore right now. And for my entire career, where I've had anything to do with open source, I've also tried to start an open source business at some point. It's always been incredibly difficult to make a good living out of it unless you somehow make something which is becomes popular. But that like assuming success, then you do this. That's a huge assumption. You cannot just basically assume success. We need small steps and small to climb. And some of those steps that I've bumped into are related to helping certain types of users with their problems. But also open the door for doing it in a commercial way. So, for example, if a business would like to have some consultancy hours, then why not offer yourself as this is available? But I'm also thinking, if you are already fully booked with your consultancy hours, this is like, if you want to make a successful business, then you only have so many hours every week to sell. So saying that if somebody is going out to the communities among the advanced users or the contributors, saying that if somebody is interested in offering commercial consulting for my project, then why not? Same goes with, like, if somebody wants to offer commercial support contracts or identification for those businesses that need to have some kind of insurance related features or clauses when adopt or using some software in their work.
Right.
I'm not entirely sure if this belongs here, but I'm thinking if we're going to have a way to hint to people that to maintainers out there that there are a few steps you can put into place or allow others to do for you or help you with, or just take the freedom to do so. Is this wrong to add this? I'm not entirely sure if my limited commercial brain is hitting on the nail on the head here. Do you understand what I'm thinking about here?
Yeah. I think we need to, first of all, I like the commercial aspect here. I do think we need to make it a little more clear, in terms of the sustainability, right?
Yeah.
Is the project itself looking for these looking to do these things like hosting of the project? Because commercial intent of an open source project, I believe, has a ramification on the CRA.
Yes. Well,
Um,
no, it's actually the act of monetizing, which is so you
right.
can have the commercial intent, but if you don't succeed or make an effort, then this is okay. This is probably that situation where you should talk with a lawyer. That's
Right.
step one.
My point is we need to make it very clear. If you're a maintainer and you're keeping this sustainability document up to date, are you wanting to commercially host your open source project, or are you looking for others to host it and provide it as a service independent of your project?
Yeah.
That is a huge difference. And I think we need to
Yes.
make that clear.
Yeah. If we're going to follow the pattern that we've had until now in this list, and that would be have somebody else do it for you. That would be the answer to that. That's the primary idea here. But I'm thinking, like, if you sit there at home with a hobby project and somebody says, hey, is it okay if I offer hosting commercially of your hobby project? Then there probably should be a discussion out there, but maybe this is pointless in a sense, because if there's a market and okay, I know there's people out there who write code just because they love to do so, and they have no intention of making a business out of it. And the question goes, what happens if somebody else wants and maybe even succeeds making a business out of it? Should we open that door? Should we let them open that door? Should this door be enshrined in the standard and so that people can choose to open it depending on their situation?
I think it, just thinking about sustainability for a second,
yeah,
and thinking what you said in terms of having other people do it for you. I mean, capitalists are opportunistic, right? If
yeah.
if an open source project is successful, somebody's going to try to monetize it. I think this
That's
could be a way. I think this, if we were to do this right, this could be a way to say, I want to, as a community, as an open source maintainer, I want to uh, help make the commercial entities that provide these hosting and other services successful. But in return, I expect some kind of funding, contributions, etc.
Yeah, yeah.
So that maintainers don't feel like they have to resort to Commons Clause and some of these other things that they sometimes apply on top of open source licenses.
There's one super important aspect around open source licenses. That is, strictly speaking, you get to do what you want with it, including starting a business. And strictly speaking, as a user, you shouldn't have to ask for anyone's permission, including the person who made the project. And it could be unfair in the sense that somebody else is earning money and you're not. But fact of the matter is that the people with a commitment to the main project and the rights to the name of the project, and meaning the brand or the trademark or something like that, they are in a pretty good position to exploit it if they choose to do so. What I'm imagining here is that this could be a signal to have a conversation about the topic. But strictly speaking, is if there's a like okay, the I'm very unsure here, because like if we're talking about business opportunities here, or like say for example well, yeah, we are talking about business opportunities here. That means you have to be able to know that there are users among your user base that are willing to pay for something, that they want to use this technology in their stack, but they need the thing that blocks them from doing so is that they lack the indemnification bit, for example,
Right.
which is pretty common in larger corporate environments, as far as I know. But if you know such users exists, then maybe okay. Then the situation would be, or the question to ask then would be, do I as a manufacturer want to exploit this situation to earn some money? If the answer is no, I don't care about it. This is just a hobby project. And if people want to make this into something that is bigger than I'm imagining, then please, they can go ahead and do whatever they want. And at that point, it would happen anyway. But the middle between in those two extremes, like me wanting to exploit it or somebody else exploiting it by their whatever reason they want to do it, is there a need for the maintainer to say there is a need for somebody to step up and offer indemnification or an insurance, or to offer a hosting service as part of their commercial hosting
I think there
solutions?
is. I think there is. Like, I'm thinking of a use case where, as a maintainer, and I'm going to go to dependency track, right? Because it's one of these successful, small, it's niche, but it's a successful project with tens of thousands of organizations using it. but it's not Kubernetes, right? It's not like a household name. It's never going to be because it is niche. It would be really interesting if I am a commercial entity and I'm looking to offer support services, consulting, support, that sort of thing. It would be really interesting for me to be able to, in an automated fashion, scour GitHub, look for open source projects that have asserted that they would like the community to have, commercially support available because their user base is a lot of Fortune 500s, and they kind of want that and that would help augment the support that the maintainers in the community already provide via Discord and Slack and all the other mechanisms, right? I think that would be good for maintainers to be able to assert that, hey, this project is viable. Please consider offering commercial support for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a perspective I hadn't considered much, that there is just value in publishing this information so it can be aggregated and picked up by businesses who are looking for opportunities.
Yeah.
That's actually a good point, and that can create some interesting consequences that are might even help the projects.
Yeah.
All right, so you've killed my doubts on this point here. Are there is there anything we should add to this list or change? Or reword? Because commercial services,
I think that's, I mean, we have a lot of the other stuff in other categories already.
Yeah.
Such as legal services and stuff like that. We already have categories for these things. So, no, I think this is okay.
All right. Let's then claim it is. Let's see. Okay, I have some a green check mark here now. One question, by the way, Pub Minion. Have you thought much about an
I have not thought about it
for that?
but I laugh.
I like it too, but it's like does this communicate the intended professionalism of?
No. And, it could negatively impact, mental health if, in fact, you're reminded of, yes, there are pubs and you were a former alcoholic. That could be a problem.
Yeah, well, yes, it could go in several directions.
Yeah. Yeah, just figure out a better name for that. Social event coordinator. That's not quite as catchy, but it's
coordinator or organizer.
Organizer's good.
In English. So let's just say we call it that, and we're not being funny anymore, and we're being all serious. There's nothing
that's no fun
here. Yeah. Right. We had okay. I'll let the commentary from Julian stay there. Okay. So there are a couple check marks here that has only one check mark, and that means probably that you need to sign off on if you feel that's the correct thing to do.
Yeah. We got one for outreach. Is that for outreach, or where's that other question mark? Up top.
Oh, that one is for outreach. Yeah,
outreach,
we should. Okay. Yeah, that's one of the topics we still need to explore. And same goes for the question around grant management. There was I think if I remember correctly, we were not, it wasn't clear if what we're doing here. A distribution, is that a term I'm asking here?
Let me see if Lars would be interested in contributing some brain cycles to grants, and then so put my name down on that. And the other one was outreach. I'll reach out to Vinod, possibly a few others, to kind of get their opinions on what we have for outreach, because that's what they do.
Right. Let's see.
Giving me homework.
All right. And outreach, a little bit of work for you. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else that we need to touch here. Not really. I think we're pretty much done. Yeah, we have a few. I added to the creative work and design apparel design, t-shirts, swag. I think that belongs there, and unless you protest strongly. Let's see, and during quality assurance and testing, I added performance test writing. That's a separate skill. I think that's worth adding here. So it comes basically together with error testing and security test writing. Should be pretty much aligned. Then we have the final question mark here in the taxonomy. Code review.
Development process review.
For me, as an open source author or participant, I'm thinking when it comes to code and reviewing of code, there's a bunch of things that are useful to think about. One is just make sure you're not introducing errors or having a second pair of eyes looking at something, just so we don't do the bad simple mistakes. And if there's at least a level of minimum level of discipline inside a project, and you also write tests to eventually enshrine that kind of scrutiny into the test suite. But I've also written development process review.
Yeah, it doesn't quite fit in there, does it?
Yeah, and it kind of even gives me a little bit of a bad taste. It's like up to the people who are there to figure this out. And most open source projects out there that are almost smaller ones, they just do what they want to, or they need to, or they just have a can-do attitude kind of thing going on, where they're more interested in just throwing code at the problem and solving it that way, instead of looking at the processes around there and saying, oh, we need to start using Scrum or stuff like that. That's just like that's not all useful, I'm thinking, unless you have a corporate environment, and at which point, if this is a corporate open source project, like it's backed by some corporation, then you have a pretty good chance for sustainable business or activities, having it become sustainable already. Maybe you don't need that. But maintainability review, is that a thing? Because when I'm looking at code and that other people have written inside a corporate environment, that, in my experience, is that that tends to be not always good code.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
code often written, and the deadlines and pressures of delivery and time to market considerations, and shortcuts are made so we can get some income going. And maintainability is like tests. It's like you push them to the end, and together with documentation, you'll do that later.
yeah, I mean, maintainability, yeah, it's about quality, but it's also about architecture.
Yeah, and whatever, strictly speaking, it's about whatever it takes to help people understand the code and what it does and how it works. So it's a question of making things understandable, so that you can maintain it, or do whatever is necessary to the code as it is running somewhere.
Right.
I know. Well, I think it still has a place there in a sense. I personally, I can imagine this would be useful. Same goes with secure code review. That is definitely useful and will become more, and is becoming right now even more necessary and useful, given the new legislative world we're entering.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking,
for the folks that are listening to this recording, SCR for the most part is a manual human behavior. The reason why this is important, and the reason why you can't throw just dumb tools at the situation, is that tools do not understand the context of how the application is executed at runtime, nor can the tools, nor do the tools oftentimes support some of the newer language features, or even in some cases, the newer languages. Rust is a really good example of that. There's linters, but not any real static analysis tools for the entirety of the language. So this is the reason why SCR is incredibly important.
And this is different from static code analysis, or is this or is SCR a subset of static code analysis in a sense? Or,
well, static code analysis basically uses a tool to do it for you. SCR is a human thinking process. So we look at it differently.
And an example for that would be, for example, that you look at more uncommon issues, or if something looks funny,
so like
you rest your own self on code smell kind of.
So like you know, a static analysis tool is capable of finding technical defects, technical flaws in source code, but it is not possible to understand the use case that the code is supposed to achieve. For example, I might be missing a role check on a given API. The static analysis tool isn't going to know that, hey, admins and maybe this other group or roles are supposed to have that, right? So only a human with that knowledge can perform these types of checks. So
aren't we talking about application security now, and not as much open source projects?
Oh, this is very applicable to open source projects. We do these types of reviews in dependency track because it's a full-blown application.
Right.
And we have like the permissions. We actually have, it's Java, so we use annotations, but we actually have a permissions annotation, and we always review like the permissions that are required to access a given API, for example. And it's a manual thing because there's no tools that are going to know in advance, well, this endpoint, you need these permissions, and this other endpoint, you need these other permissions, right? Static analysis tools cannot do this. So this is why SCR is incredibly important.
Right. Okay. All right. Sounds good. I'm going to add a check mark here because it looks good to me. Oh, that was wrong. I removed my check mark. If there are any other code review type of activities that will be useful, I think I would love to hear it. I can't think of any more right now. Activities more inward directed towards existing community. And that's a useful comment. I would also say this thing here. Gets a check mark. I think it's pretty much okay. Community, culture, and collect. So we just removed one further down a little bit. It's all green now, except for a couple more grant management. I think we should leave that one because even if it's a little bit confusing, we can add some explaining text to that, maybe.
Yeah.
So I think we should just say that one is okay. And that means it's all green now. Except, but we only have a few points where you have somebody we could ask for additions. And I think that's the last stuff we can work on when it comes to the appendix, the taxonomy. And then we can next time we can throw ourselves into the use cases again.
All right, fantastic.
So
that sounds great.
Okay, great. So a good session. We're scheduled for 2 weeks, in 2 weeks again.
Yep.
All right, that we do that and on the 20th. So awesome.
Awesome. Well, good. I think we made a lot of progress. Yay.
Yes. Yeah. And maybe we even can land this.
That would be good.
When's our when do we have a goal to land CycloneDX 1.7 ish?
Ideally, December this year would be the standardization date, which means I basically need to get everything wrapped up in its entirety, all the features that are going into 1.7 wrapped up by September.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. That gives us a date to work towards. My internal date has been before the Northern Hemisphere summer, so June.
Awesome.
So we'll see how it goes. All right.
Cool.
Thanks for the chat.
Yep. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Yes.